On. I guess I have to stand really close. Well, it's summer in the Coos, so that means we have 2 weeks ahead of us of the Oregon Coast Music Association Festival and a lot of good concerts to go to. I like to think of tonight as the prelude to the kickoff that happens in the park on Saturday at 12 o'clock noon. So if you want to hear a repeat of this concert, we invite you to show up there as well. We are here tonight for several reasons, but prominently is to honor a former member of our band, Les Simons, who was a charter member. He also was the concert master. He was the principal clarinetist and retired band director from the Myrtle Point High School programs, where he taught for over 33 years. And because he's 94 and looking at 95 in December, he felt like his health just wouldn't warrant being able to make it tonight. So we're going to show a little video presentation of his life in music. It's something new, and we'll see how that goes. But I talked to Les today on the phone, and he said to party on and to have one on him. I'm pretty sure he was talking about a cupcake. Because we're having a reception for you people and members of our band at the back of the church after the concert, and we'd very much like to have you join us and have a chance to visit. And speaking of you, we couldn't do this without your generous support. We so much appreciate all the sponsorship that we get from you, your attendance, your comments, and your encouragement. We have been playing for almost 50 years, and when I say almost, our 50th year is next year, 2026. So it is also the quincentennial of the nation, and it will be our 50th year, so we will party at every single concert. We have purchased a lot of new music, and we're going to have featured soloists at each one, so be sure to follow us online and make sure that you can come to our concerts. The money for financing our year next year has been provided mostly by the Bay Area Sportsman Association, and they have been helping us since I have become president. So we very much appreciate their help, and thank you. We were also really fortunate to get a generous donation from the Floyd Ingram Charitable Trust, and that enabled us to put on a youth concert at Southwestern Oregon Community College. It seats 500, and there were 500 fifth graders from Coos Bay and North Bend. It was fabulous. It may have been one of my most favorite concerts because the kids were so good and they loved it, and they asked us, they encouraged us in their thank yous to keep at it so we could come back next year. So we'll keep practicing. We also agreed to be a pass-through agent for Marshville High School that is trying to raise money for a marimba for one of our own, Addison Moss. Addison just finished her sophomore year at Marshfield, the same year she took up the marimba. And she was good enough at it that she went to state 2 months ago, but she needs a marimba to practice. So we said we'd help raise money. Turns out they're spendy, and a marimba is $7,000. Yeah, a lot of money. However, we are at, let's see, $4,600. We only need $2,400 yet left to make that goal. So if you want to help a budding musician on the marimba, think about donating. There are some information on the back of your program. There are some charts that we have, rack charts at the back of the church to hear more. There's a QR code, that little black funny thing on the back of your program. You turn on your camera app, hold it up to that funny little square thing, and it'll open up a YouTube video, and you can listen to her play Shardis, and think you would like that. I recently read that musicians don't retire. They stop when there is no more music left in them. And I'm not sure about that. I've been thinking about that, but I can tell you for sure there's a lot of music left in the musicians tonight, so let's get to it. May I present to you our esteemed director, Stephen Simpkins.
How to Train Your Dragon is an extremely popular animated children's movie from DreamWorks, based on a series of books by the British author Cressida Crowell. A month ago, I was completely ignorant of all that. In case some of you are as clueless as I was, here is a synopsis of the plot. As an ancient threat endangers both Vikings and dragons alike on the Isle of Berk, the friendship between Hiccup, an inventive Viking, and Toothless, a night fairy dragon, becomes the key to both species forging a new future together. There, now we're all up to speed. Now let's listen to the band play a suite of music from the film. Here is music from the motion picture How to Train Your Dragon by John Powell, arranged by Sean O'Laughlin. Those of you who have attended our previous concerts are probably aware that I am a great fan of the British band classics. In fact, I've programmed so many that we are in danger of having to repeat ourselves. And after today, there will be one less because we're going to play Sea Songs by Ralph Vaughan Williams. The work was originally the second movement of the English folk song suite. Williams wrote the work as a tribute to the band of the Royal College of Music at Kneller Hall, which he and his friend Gustav Holst greatly admired. It was that band which performed its premiere in 1923. Then, for reasons that are not clear, Williams removed Sea Songs from the suite and published it separately, and it has been performed separately ever since. Sea Songs is a concert march based on 3 sea chanties: Princess Royal, Admiral Benbow, and Portsmouth. And now here is that great British band classic, Sea Songs. All right, in 1927, the Russian composer Reinhold Glier, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, wrote the music for a ballet by the name of The Red Poppy. Vladimir Lenin was still in power, and of course, any art produced had to extol the glory of Lenin and the Russian Revolution. And The Red Poppy did just that. Despite the blatant political bias, the ballet contains some memorable tunes. Chief among them was the rousing Russian Sailor's Dance. And it is this selection for which Glier is best known. Now, I can't resist mentioning that the Ballet Russe staged a performance of The Red Poppy in Cleveland, Ohio in 1943. World War II was still raging and Russia and the US were allied. So the Chinese villain in the original production was changed to a Japanese bar owner, and the Sailor's Dance now included American and British sailors. So much for revolutionary purity. Here is Glier's Russian Sailor's Dance, arranged by Merle J. Isaac.
So I received a letter from Les Simons and his family that he asked us to read tonight, and it says, "To the Bay Area Concert Band, on behalf of our entire family, I want to extend our deepest gratitude for the extraordinary tribute concert being held in my honor. It is humbling beyond words to be recognized in this way, and I remain immensely proud to have been a part of the Bay Area Concert Band since its founding in 1976. Over the decades, the music we made together was more than just notes on a page. It was a reflection of shared passion, friendship, and dedication to a craft that brought joy to our community. Though I regret that I cannot be there in person to celebrate with you, please know that my heart is fully with you in spirit. I will be thinking of every familiar face, every beautifully played phrase, and every memory that helped shape the band's legacy. Thank you for this honor and for continuing to carry the music forward. It means more to me than words can say. With warmest regards and sincere appreciation, Lester Simons and family." Tonight we honor Les Simons. He was a band director at Myrtle Point High School, as well as some of the schools in the surrounding areas, a businessman, a member of many performing groups, and an amazing clarinetist. The Bay Area Concert Band was established in February 1976. Les was a charter member of that band. This picture, taken in the 1980s, shows the complexion of that group. Wilbur Jensen, Judy Jensen, Ted Terry, Peggy Christensen, Bill Mass, Bonnie Cox are also playing in the band and are pictured along with Les in the photo. Les was born in Lebanon, Oregon on December 24, 1930. The name of the town came from Jeremiah Ralston in 1847, inspired by both the numerous cedar trees by the Santiam River that reminded him of the biblical cedars of Lebanon, and as a tribute to his birthplace, Lebanon, Tennessee. Les began band in the 5th grade, where he says, he was handed a clarinet out of the family closet on the way to school. It was a rather chance fit that turned out to be a really good one. His budding interest and talent was quickly recognized as he began to make public appearances, playing for social and civic events while in junior high. Performance continued throughout the rest of his life. He was in the high school's marching band as well as the regular band. During his junior year, he received national honors for his placement in the senior clarinet division at a national music contest held in Ellensburg, Washington, and included competitors from Oregon, Montana, Washington, and Idaho. This was in May of 1947. From here, he was supposed to be sent by his high school to the Music Educators National Contest, but due to some kind of political wrangling with the organizers, he never got to make that trip. It was a disappointment to Les because, as he said, I would have been only the second musician from Oregon to be sent. The first was Doc Severinsen. After graduating from high school, Les pursued a degree at the University of Oregon, where he became deeply involved in the music program under the direction of John Stein, a respected and well-known clarinetist regarded as the founding father of the modern band. He was succeeded by Robert Wagner, who led the concert band, and Ira Lee, who directed the athletic bands. During his time at the university, Les met and married fellow student Marvin Joe Churchill, who was originally from Coos Bay. He earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in 1952, and although he was offered a position as a teaching assistant at the university, he accepted a job in Myrtle Point instead, as it offered $100 more a year. Nevertheless, he did return to the University of Oregon during the summers to teach workshops featuring sessions for high school orchestra. With degree in hand, Les took over the band program from a director he described as competent and who had a group of 80 students at that time. When Les retired 33 years later, the program had grown to 250 students, and although he originally intended to stay for only 3 years, he ended up dedicating 3 decades to the role. 2 current members of the Bay Area Concert Band, Bill Mass, who plays trombone, and his sister Joanne, an alto clarinetist, were once students of Les. When Les began teaching, he said the mission for anyone in his position was to make things better. So that is what Les did. 122 students had registered for band when Les first took over in 1952. That number grew by more than 100% in 7 years. And backed with the support of the school board and administration, Les continued to expand the program for his students. Les worked hard to grow and improve his band program, and the evidence and recognition of that effort was everywhere. As the band continued to distinguish itself in the community, the county, and beyond, the enthusiasm and support for the band grew as well. And as if he didn't already have enough going on, he enrolled in the University of Oregon's master program, coming away with a master's in music. Les had a dance band made up of his students that played for different events. There was also a jazz band, a marching band, and a pop band. Current Bay Area Concert Band member Joanne Mass was in his jazz band and the regular band. Les also had some of his kids playing for the school-produced musicals. He organized and took his band to band exchanges. An exchange meant they would travel to a school to put on a performance, and that school would reciprocate. These exchanges reached from Astoria to Ashland. Les pushed his program beyond the walls of the band room to extend across the state. There were a lot of band trips. Current Bay Area Concert Band member Bill Mass reported that the band also ventured further afield to play in Astoria, the Dalles, and in his senior year, they traveled to Canada. Bill is shown in the picture with the jazz band, but he also played in the concert band. According to the caption above, ticket sales and candy drives provided the money to take the band to Canita, Prineville, and Diamond Lake. The caption below the group band picture on the left reads, "The students study their band music as they get ready for their music contests. Check out the body language." Les performed with various groups and orchestra throughout his career. In the photo on the left, Les is pictured alongside several notable musicians. Immediately to his left is John Kendall, a North Bend native and music instructor at Myrtle Point Junior High. John was a charter member and guest conductor of the Bay Area Concert Band. Next to John is Wilbur Jensen, currently the principal trumpet player of the Bay Area Concert Band and also a charter member. To Wilbur's left is Charles Hayden, who is seen in conversation about music selections for the Hayden Festival. And although the Hayden Festival only ran for a couple of years, it played a significant role as the precursor to the Oregon Coast Music Festival. The photo on the right features the Bay Area Woodwind Quintet, with whom Les frequently performed, usually in the traditional quintet formation. From left to right, the members are Georgianne Wicklund, Kathleen Moulton, Nancy Orbison, Bob Gillette, and Les. Les and his wife Marvin traveled broadly and often. Many of their trips included their traveling buddies and former Bay Area Concert Band charter members Ron Carpani and his wife Marlene. The four of them are pictured above. Starting from left to right is Marlene, Ron, Les, and Marvin. Ron was a retired director from Coos Bay Schools and played saxophone as well as clarinet, but Dixieland was Ron's thing. He played with the Frosty West Ensemble and other groups at local venues for years. In the 1980s, he, along with Marlene and their friends Alberta, Burt, and Frosty West, founded the Coos Bay Clambake Jazz Festival, now called Coos Bay Clambake Music Festival. Les and Marvin's passion for travel and adventure didn't begin until after their kids were out of high school. but then it really took off. Les commented that while he was on his travels, he liked to pick up music scores whenever possible. He would bring these arrangements back for his own students to play or would send them on to the University of Oregon. Les was a part of that breed of musicians who performed as a featured soloist with a group, a band, or an orchestra whenever he got the chance. He played on the float with the Jensen's family and friends every 4th of July in Port Orford for 60 years. At Christmas, he would be at Shore Acres with other members of the band, or on the boardwalk, or maybe just in his kitchen. His playing at home is reminiscent of a story he once shared of him sitting on the front porch of his family's home and pretending that the scenery in front of him held an audience for whom he performed. It's a sweet memory. Can't you just picture it? Les played with the Bay Area Concert Band until he retired from it in 2019. And although not playing anymore for audiences, he can still play the clarinet if you hand him the horn. At age 94, looking at 95 in December of this year, he spends his time at home. He enjoys daily phone conversations and short drives with his sons, Greg, David, and Martin. He is very pleased that the Bay Area Concert Band is having a concert and a reception in honor of him, and even though he cannot be here in person, he looks forward to seeing the video of tonight's performance. Les's final concert with the band took place in 2019. He is pictured above with Wilbur. Both are charter members of the ensemble. Note that Les is carrying his music stand, preparing to put it away, a small but symbolic gesture of his dedication. This band, and indeed hundreds if not thousands of students and young musicians, owe a deep debt of gratitude to Les for sharing his lifelong love of music with us. As a final tribute, we'd like to share a meaningful moment from Les's youth. When he was a 16-year-old junior at Lebanon High School, his band performed the Zacatecas March at a competition. So to honor Les and bring that journey full circle, the concert band will now perform the same march nearly 80 years later. It's our way of saying, thank you, Les. Steve was whispering me to sit down, but there are two things that were a special surprise to us tonight. Marlene Carpani, if she's in the front row here, she's one of our charter members, and she was featured there. And she and her husband were the ones that helped, along with the Frosty and Burt West, to found the Coos Bay Jazz Festival. So we owe you a lot, Marlene. So good to see you. And our last surprise, and I didn't know this was happening, but our former director, Mark Allen, came from Roseburg to see us. I want to know where he's sitting. Okay, over in the corner. I have to say you look great and don't look stressed because you're not directing the band anymore.
All right, just a few more paragraphs. In 1891, two Mexican composers, Genaro Codina and Fernando Villalpando, were having dinner at a family gathering. They got into a friendly argument as to who could write a better march. And then they bet money on the matter. Both men submitted a composition to a panel of relatives and friends who judged Codina to be the winner. Codina had written his march for his preferred instrument, the harp. But fortunately for us, the good-natured loser, Villalpando, arranged Codina's march for band. It was later titled Zacatecas in honor of the Mexican state. Today, it is much loved by the Mexican people and is considered the second national anthem of Mexico. Zacatecas by Genaro Codina. I can never go wrong programming a Leroy Anderson piece for this band, and rightly so. No less than John Williams has described him as the great American master of light orchestral music. In 1947, the Eyre Society of Boston, Massachusetts, commissioned Anderson to create an orchestral suite of traditional Irish folk music to be performed by the Boston Pops Orchestra. Anderson delivered his Irish Suite in an amazing 11 days. 2 years later, he added a movement titled The Girl I Left Behind Me, which he also arranged for the concert band, and yes, that is the number we are about to play. Now, I want you to listen carefully for a wonderful contrapuntal effect near the end, where the woodwinds play the first part of a tune against the second part played in half speed by the brass. Here is what is no doubt Anderson's most difficult work for the concert band, The Girl I Left Behind Me. James Kurnow is an American composer, arranger, and conductor whose duties have required him to travel our country from sea to shining sea. And he has written a symphonic rhapsody based on America the Beautiful to express his view of America. He has intertwined motifs from that famous tune with an original theme to express the contrasting moods which he found as he traveled. Now, let me warn you, it may take a while to recognize America the Beautiful, but fear not, it eventually arrives and triumphantly. Amber Waves of Grain by James Kurnow. The patrol, that is, a patrol is a variety of march intended to give the impression of a band marching by the listener. The patrol format was used by no less than Ludwig van Beethoven in his Turkish March, and it was popular in the second half of the 19th century, and other compositions bear titles such as Turkish Patrol, Ethiopian Patrol, Owls Patrol, Welsh Patrol, and Arab Patrol. The most famous of them all is no doubt American Patrol by F.W. Meacham. American Patrol has one original theme, and it is quite famous because it was recorded in a swing version by the Glenn Miller Band in 1942. In addition, you will hear Columbia, the Gem of the Ocean, Dixie, and Yankee Doodle. Now here's one of my favorite marches, American Patrol. Everyone loves the classic 1939 movie musical, that is, The Wizard of Oz, starring Judy Garland. How could we not, with music like Harold by Harold Arlen and E.Y. Harburg, featuring famous tunes like We're Off to See the Wizard, Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead, If I Only Had a Brain, The Merry Old Land of Oz, and Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I'm going to say it again, Wilbur. Those guys knew how to write a song. All right. Now here is James Barnes' wonderful overture on themes from The Wizard of Oz. Okay, we do have one more for you, of course. Patrick Gilmore and his famous band spent every summer performing at New York's famous Manhattan Beach Resort. When the Gilmore organization was no longer able to perform, its place was taken by an up-and-coming band director and his band. His name was John Philip Sousa. In 1892, Sousa wrote Manhattan Beach March there, in honor of that resort, and it quickly became a staple of bands all over the world. Sousa often altered the concert performances of his marches without changing the printed music, so that no other band would sound like the great Sousa's. In this case, the Sousa band performed it differently by playing the trio and last section as a short descriptive piece. In this interpretation, soft clarinet arpeggios suggest the rolling ocean waves as one strolls along the beach. Then a band is heard in the distance. It grows louder and then fades away as the stroller continues along the beach, similar to a patrol. Here is John Philip Sousa's Manhattan Beach.